Good evening and welcome to tonight's public hearing on the fiscal year 2021 through 2025 Capital Improvement Program. On behalf of school board members, I would like to thank you for taking time this evening to come and talk to us about the CIP. Tonight we have 29 registered speakers. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes, and to be respectful of everyone, we ask that you stay within that time limit. The timer will start when you begin to speak, and you will be able to see the time remaining on the clock at the lectern. The buzzer will sound at the conclusion of your 3 minutes. 3 names and their speaker numbers will be announced at a time, and when you hear your name, please move closer to the front of the auditorium so you'll be ready when it is your turn to speak. If speakers are not here when their name is called, those names will be called again at a later time. If you have not registered to speak tonight but would like to have an opportunity to address the board, please see one of the clerks to sign up for one of the 5 extra speaker slots. Your name will be called after all registered speakers. Also, there will be an opportunity for individuals to speak if there are no-show speaker slots remaining at the end of the hearing. After all the registered speakers have addressed the board, I will announce whether there are no-show slots available. For this, we ask that you state your full name at the time you speak. After you have spoken, please see one of the clerks so that she may collect your contact information for the record. Throughout the evening, you may notice school board members leave the table at times, but they will have access to a TV that is broadcasting the public hearing. I will now call the first 3 names. Speaker 1 is Zach Hassan, followed by Speaker 2, Sahiti Akanta, and 3, Nuralhuda Alkabi. And I apologize if I have mispronounced your names. Zach? Okay. Sahiti? Yes, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Sahiti Achenta, and I'm a senior at Chantilly High School. I'm co-lead organizer of the Virginia Youth Climate Strikes and member of Solar on the Schools. I'm using this opportunity to voice my thoughts as an FCPS student and someone who is afraid of what can happen to my future and the future of our world and our students if we allow climate change to take its course. I knew climate change and global warming was a problem as a kid, but I never knew the full scope of the issue until I took an AP Environmental Science class in my junior year. Out of my entire school of 2,770 students, only 30 were signed up to take the class that year. I learned about renewable energy, the harmful fossil fuels which create greenhouse gases, and how contributing to the problem will and already has caused irreversible damage to our society. I took this matter seriously, which is why 1 year later I stand before all of you to talk about how this issue cannot be ignored. The imminent threat of climate change should be taught in classes and technology courses because more people need to learn about this issue. It is an indisputable fact that the most effective way to repair what is going on in the climate crisis is to fix the U.S. energy consumption habits. Renewable energy is the way to our future, and yet it receives little to no spotlight for learning. I only learned about renewable energy through my class of 30 students. Of course, we knew what solar energy is, but we did not know how it's financially more viable for lower-income households, how wind turbines have created 100,000 jobs in 2016 alone, and how geothermal energy has already been implemented in schools across the country. So I must ask, why has this education not been accessible or taught in its full capacity in FCPS? My own high school has just built an innovation lab, which is a center for 3D printing, VEX robotics, and more. We already have 5 3D printers in Chantilly High School and a VEX robotics team with their own field and building kits. But this could have been a space to implement makerspace areas to learn about renewable energy. A 3D printer is about $4,000, and a KNX makerspace kit to learn and build renewable energy models is $105. We need similar funding for maker spaces and materials for students who want to learn about battery technology, energy efficiency, and renewable energy. This is the technology of our future and one of the fastest growing fields in the United States for the next few decades. Utilizing energy efficiency cannot be shipped overseas. They are Virginia jobs. I urge the school board to look into funding renewable energy projects the same way the board currently funds STEM projects in order to increase education about renewable energy. In your amendment of the CIP, I request that you add makerspaces, which will provide space and facilities where students can learn about wind and solar energy efficiency and battery technology. Thank you.
Thank you. Nurahuda Al-Kalabi, followed by Helen Krieger and Deepa Rao. Your name?
Helen Krieger. Good evening. My name is Helen Krieger, and I'm a senior at James Madison High School. On behalf of Solar on the Schools, I would like to thank you for putting support for the expansion of distributed solar on your legislative agenda for the Virginia General Assembly and for adding solar to the most recent revision of the CIP. Solar on the Schools strongly supports this legislation because it would allow for the expansion of renewable energy, which is limited by the state. Right now, Virginia laws contain restrictions on the ability of residents, businesses, school systems, and local governments to install solar facilities for their own use. Knocking down these barriers to distributed solar is imperative. FCPS has awarded a contract for solar power purchase agreements, or PPAs. This is a great achievement. However, there is a cap on the amount of solar that can be installed in Dominion Energy's service territory using PPAs, and this cap has been reached. Due to this issue, we are asking for you to help us support the Solar Freedom Bill, which would remove this cap. Last year, I went to Richmond and spoke in the subcommittee on energy in the House Commerce and Labor Committee in support of the Solar Freedom Bill. Ultimately, the bill didn't make it to the full House for a vote. This year, the bill has been reintroduced. It's House Bill 572, and with your support, we are optimistic that the bill will pass both chambers and be signed by the governor. Furthermore, the next frontier for SCPS is building schools equipped with solar and geothermal systems so that they can be net zero energy. This is being accomplished in Arlington, Virginia, and Howard County, Maryland, to name a few. I understand that putting designs for the net zero in the CIP has been postponed for further analysis and currently will not make it into this CIP. Solar on the Schools asks that you reconsider this. We know it can be done, and that it would be a great step for FCPS. Money will be saved in the long term through the reduction in the energy that must be purchased and in reduced maintenance costs. Net zero is the next step. In short, we thank you for the great leap to install significant solar, ask for your help with the Solar Freedom Bill, and hope to use this momentum to start designing net zero schools in Fairfax County. Thank you.
Deepa Rao, followed by Ira Kim and Moeth Al-Shamrani. Is Deepa here? Ira? Moeth? Josephine Phillips, followed by Nora Molnar and John Callanan.
Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Ira Kim, and I'm currently a junior from Woodson High School. Today, I stand before you again as was mirrored last year, where I presented with a trembling heart and concern for our beloved home. But today, I stand before you with the same aspiration, but with a pounding heart, excited for the new future. Thank you for your current efforts and dedication in supporting environmental sustainability for Fairfax County community and by issuing the solar contract. I thank you for recognizing the student voices that stand before you today. With future generations in mind, we must take strong actions. As I'm sure that you're already aware, the solar industry is one of the fastest growing opportunities in America. I found a poster listing the top 10 careers in the United States posted at the Career Center at my school this year. I found this interesting because the idea of a solar career is as absent among so many students. Many focus their energy towards conventional jobs such as engineering, the law, medicine, etc. But perhaps it should be highlighted that the solar workforce is most capable of changing the future that we are to inherit and of protecting our environment. And perhaps it is because our school system stresses heavily on the college career path, which is undeniably important, of course, but still forces our perspective to be too narrow. Or perhaps it is because the poster I found earlier this year is posted on a bulletin board that students hardly notice or see. According to the National Solar Job Census, the solar workforce has grown 159% since 2010, creating an addition of 150,000 jobs. Despite this, it should be noted that currently over 80% of solar companies struggle to hire qualified employees. With new utility scale projects and policy incentives, solar jobs will increase by 7%, bringing about 250,000 new jobs by 2019. In addition, jobs related to wind energy will increase in Virginia with the new terrestrial and offshore wind commitments. I recommend the addition of an academy that supports renewable energy workforce development. I am proud to be part of SCPS, where we strive to change for the betterment of our environment and community. Thank you so much for hearing. Thank you.
Moeth Al-Shamrani, followed by Josephine Phillips, Nora Molnar, John Callanan.
Hi, my name is Josephine Phillips.
Hi, my name is Melanie Lindsay, and we are both students at McLean High School and residents of Shouse Village.
Shouse is one of the neighborhoods being considered for a border change. We do not believe this is a fair solution due to a negative toll that would be taken on various aspects of student life as well as the commute.
Yes, McLean High School is overcrowded, but they've known about that for years. The proposed boundary change is not a well-thought-out, long-term solution, so why suddenly rush it now? It's not fair to the kids.
Driving to Langley takes around 30 to 45 minutes, while driving to McLean only takes 10 to 20 minutes.
We think a solution to the crowding issue to fund a modular for next year and push us up higher on the renovation list.
This is a long-term solution rather than a short-term reaction.
We've both been able to set roots in McLean and have played McLean sports our entire lives and are both involved in multiple sports and clubs at McLean.
Moving us seems unnecessary and would only hurt the future graduating classes.
Some kids may be fine with Langley, but most would not be, especially if it's not their choice and it's on short notice.
Thank you for your time.
Nora Molnar, John Callanan, Jennifer Colman. Please be a little quiet. We're conducting a hearing. Thank you.
Hi, Nora Molnar. I'm here today to ask that you not go forward with a boundary change and instead give McLean High School a brick and mortar addition. The premise for the boundary change is that Langley is projected to be under capacity, but respectfully, I think there's been a miscalculation potentially in the number of kids that are supposed to come out of the Tyson's Corner development centers. Specifically, Exhibit A is a cash profit report that would say that 1,700 kids are projected to feed into Marshall, Langley, and McLean by the year 2029 if all known development projects are complete. The CIP, on the other hand, says that only 72 students collectively will be attending those three schools by the year 2025. Exhibit B, which I've emailed you the exhibits, and I have a hard copy here tonight. I don't know if you have it in front of you, but Exhibit B is the student yield impact memo for the mile. This tells McLean High School that it will take on an additional 250 or more high school students from the mile and other significant developments that are already approved and or under construction in Tyson's Corner. This memo specifically says that the CIP projections do not reflect the increase in the number of students resulting from the proposed zoning. I think these documents need to be reconciled before we understand how many kids are coming out of Tyson's. The CIP says that McLean's only going to take on 75 students. So which document's correct? The development yield memo or the CIP? Exhibit C is a demographic report showing that the 22102 zip code that feeds into Langley is projected to take on almost 4,000 households in the next 5 years. But the CIP says that Langley's going to lose 117 students. It doesn't make sense to me as a layperson how both of those facts can be true. And I don't mean to be critical. I know people a lot smarter than me on these issues have put this together, and I could be wrong, and I hope I am wrong. But if I'm not wrong, it would be a false factual premise to go forward with a redistricting based on a supposed undercapacity problem if the kids from Tyson's Corner haven't been properly accounted for. Assuming I'm wrong about the math, you still wouldn't have redistricting as a viable option because of your ed spec, which says that all high schools in Fairfax County should have a design capacity of 2,500 students, and that your regulations state that you shall build to your ed specs to ensure equivalency in scope and size of instructional program facilities. If you downsize McLean to our 1,990 capacity or whatever you're planning on doing, that will ensure academic and athletic inequivalency until the year 2048, which is when we're scheduled to renovate. Along with losing the kids in the trailers, we would lose programming, computer sciences, languages, fine arts. McLean parents haven't been told about that downside. Exhibit F would show that it's possible to build McLean out. The footprints of Annandale and
Thank you,
Justice
Ms.
are
Mulner.
smaller than McLean High School. And the
Thank
good
you.
news is we have the money, but I'm talking at the budget meeting, so we'll talk about that at the budget
John
meeting. Thank you.
Callanan, followed by Jennifer Colman.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak about capacity deficit at McLean. The board must step back from current boundary proposals and consider solutions with long-term impact, specifically adding a modular and putting McLean on the renovation queue in this CIP. According to McLean's website, a core value is to engage the community in a supportive environment. Yet your proposals have led to ugly and exclusionary and hurtful statements, such as, we should preserve the core McLean community. But how do you define a core community? These are dangerous terms that isolate certain groups, and as a result, our children now feel unwanted and unwelcome in their own high school. And why shouldn't they? Your boundary proposals undo at least 1 year of hard work, activities in clubs and sports, and work with counselors. This week, McLean students pick classes for next year, but because of your proposal to kick kids out of their school, hundreds of students don't even know where they're going to attend school next year. So how do they pick classes? Please, I ask that the board answer the following questions. Where is the economic development and transportation safety data to back up these proposals? In the next 2 years, also, can Langley handle hundreds of students from McLean and hundreds more from development, including the Route 7 development, without adding trailers? I ask the board to concurrently consider the following. Add an IB program to Langley to attract more students. Stretch interior modifications at McLean. Add a modular to the CIP to bring McLean under 100% capacity for the first time in a decade without kicking out children. Put McLean in the renovation queue. You have $449 million in the CIP for renovation, not a penny for McLean. That's not acceptable after 10 years of being over capacity. Update the school evaluation study from 2008. Start open enrollment, eliminate split feeders, make developers contribute more towards education, request higher allocation to capital improvements from the Board of Supervisors, and fund a Silverline High School now and then talk about boundary changes. I've submitted a more detailed version of this to all of you if you'd like to look at that. But if we must consider boundary changes, please start at the elementary, then the middle, and then the high school levels. Do not begin at the end. And to be clear, the board should never, ever consider any boundary changes that do not grandfather current students. Also, do not split up our families. If siblings will simultaneously attend high school, they should do so together. The board recognizes the boundary proposals are based on flawed data, based on the recent hiring of a boundary consultant to make the process better, your request to update the evaluation study, and your plans to ask the Board of Supervisors for development data. But these proposals were formed before those improvements, so these proposals must be shelved. In fact, your proposals have now united parents from Great Falls, south of Route 7, and McSpaces in our support of adding a modular and a renovation to this CIP. I don't envy the board in such tough decisions, but now these kids are not wanted at McLean or Langley. They're stuck in the middle, and I ask anyone to explain to them why this is a good idea. None of you want to sacrifice your children for the failure to plan at McLean. Do not sacrifice my child. Renovate, modular, and preserve our
Callanan,
community.
thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.
Jennifer Colman, Vance Gore, and Fadi Shadid.
Madam Chair, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, staff, and my fellow citizens, parents, and students. My name is Jennifer Colman. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify this evening on the proposed CIP. I'm a McLean High School parent in a household that includes 2 McLean High School graduates, 1 Marshall IB graduate, and 1 current sophomore at McLean High School who testified a few moments ago. As my speaking time is limited, I would like to specifically address pages 98 and 99 of the CIP, which present potential solutions for addressing overcapacity at McLean High School. I appreciate the attention to this matter that the board has given. I've also studied the CIP and gathered input and ideas from dozens of students and families. Fortunately, there are good options for McLean High School that are recommended in the CIP and supported by the community. Those include potential solutions A through G on pages 98 and 99, including the CIP recommendations of A, D, and F, and especially solution F. According to the CIP, the last capacity enhancement for McLean High School was in 1980. That's 40 years of growth in the district with 0 growth in the physical space at the high school. We need a modular now and a capacity enhancement approved right away and built as soon as possible. Coupled with the capacity enhancement solutions for McLean, we support 2 solutions that would include and assist Langley High School, adding the IB program there and the open enrollment options for students and families at McLean. Those are truly win-win solutions. Langley gets the students it needs for programming while not overburdening the school. No student is forced to leave McLean, and the students that want to enroll in IB or attend Langley for other programs are able to do so. I and the many families with whom I've discussed the CIP urge you to take option H, the potential boundary adjustment, off the table. A downsizing of McLean High School is not supported by the students or the community, and the proposals to do so have been presented without full disclosure or any discussion of the many disadvantages of downsizing. Furthermore, the idea of being pushed out of school in which they are invested and supported is causing concern, anxiety, and stress among the students, uprooting our kids from their classes, sports teams, clubs, leadership positions, and more, especially just a few weeks before school starts, would be devastating, and it would be a big black eye for our community. Our community will fight a rushed boundary adjustment with every resource we can muster. On the other hand, there's a perfectly good option that we all support. We, the constituents who elected you, will support you and work with you on option F for McLean High School. There are many people here tonight speaking in favor of capacity enhancement for McLean. We can continue to canvass neighborhoods, get out the vote, talk to decision makers, whatever we need to do. You know what we can do when we put our minds together. All students will win. This is a teaching moment for our students. They are aware of these discussions. Please let your action on the CIP to be an opportunity to make deliberate, inclusive, and supportive choices. I urge you to approve solution F and reject option H. Thank you very much.
Vance Gore, followed by Fadi Shadid and Jennifer Longmire Wood.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Speaker number 1's mother has informed me that he is not well, so he will not be on the speaker list.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Madam Chair, school board members, Superintendent Braband, and school staff, my name is Vance Gore. My son is a sophomore at McLean High. My daughter will be a freshman there in the fall. My oldest daughter graduated from McLean last year. I'm a big fan of McLean High School and its motivated students, dedicated faculty and staff, strong academics and student support, and a program that provides its students with an education that will serve them anywhere, anytime in life. Truly a testament to FCPS's commitment to education. So I get a little anxious when I see the overcrowding at my children's school and how that challenging physical environment threatens that success. But I become downright fearful when I see the overcrowding and how it threatens the safety and security of those same students and staff. That sentiment is shared by some 700 members of McSpaces. The McLean High students, parents, and community expect sensible school size, a group organized to stop school overcrowding and support adding permanent, protected, quality learning space to McLean High School. The draft CIP has nothing concrete to address the overcrowding at McLean High School. I believe that is a serious oversight which needs to be resolved. By now, you may be familiar with the situation. The high school is at 118% capacity, 300 above its 2,000 student capacity. The overflow, 20% of the student body is sent to classes in 18 trailers at least 50 yards outside the main building doors. The crowded campus means that each student is allocated less than 127 square feet of space. That is 25% less than the county median. In 2 years, McLean High will be at 127% capacity with 2,500 students, one of the most crowded high schools in Fairfax County. I know that several of you are personally familiar with a boundary adjustment study currently underway and designed to take pressure off McLean High School by moving students to Langley High School. The adjustment may be necessary now that millions were spent expanding Langley, but unless massive in scale and immensely disruptive, is only one step towards getting students out of the trailer classes. You may not be familiar with this. In 2016-17, when McLean High was only 60 students over its 1,993 student capacity, there were still 10 trailers on campus. Why would a school so close to capacity need 10 trailers? We are not asking for more space than other high schools or better space than other high schools, but the same amount of space provided to nearly every other high school in FCPS. We are asking for help keeping more than 2,300 students safe and secure in a 1950s era building plagued by cramped classrooms, crowded halls, and clogged doorways. Make the investment and take steps today to guarantee Mary McLean students have the space. Thank you.
Fadi Shadid, followed by Jennifer Longmire Wood and Meg Mall.
Madam Chair, school board members, my name is Fadi Shadid, and I have 3 children in Fairfax County Public Schools. I'm also a volunteer on the Schools Committee with the Great Falls Citizens Association. Our association has about 1,000 members. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this very complex and important CIP process. We all agree that we owe it to our students and communities to employ our best information sources and data insight as basis for these major planning decisions. The community I represent is concerned about the membership forecast for Langley High School in the proposed fiscal year 21-25 CIP. We are concerned that the membership forecast may be too low and is underestimating student enrollment over the next 5 years. The new CIP expects membership to decline 8% to 1,855 students in year 5. For reasons I will cite shortly, we think it is more reasonable to forecast at least a flat or slightly rising enrollment over the next 5 years. We believe that a flat growth profile is consistent with the experience of the past 10 years, while a slightly rising forecast is supported from the uptrend of the past 5 years, as well as the general high growth profile of our county. The primary reason we think your forecast is too low is that the CIP has been forecasting a declining trajectory for Langley in every single annual CIP for the last 10 years. The average decline forecasted from the past 10 CIPs is 6.4% in year 5 as compared to year 1 of the forecast period. Yet actual membership has stayed flat and has not declined from 10 years ago. In 2010, enrollment was 2,018 students. For this coming September 2020, the membership forecast is expecting 2,016 students. No decline. Also, the forecast for this coming September would be the highest enrollment in the past 5 years. These facts do not suggest a declining trend. We realize that the CIP forecast is based on input variables in a computer model. In the case of Langley, maybe that's the slightly declining trend in elementary school membership, or another model variable is overly dampening the Langley enrollment forecast. We are suggesting that whatever variables are responsible for this repeated declining forecast, they have not been accurate. Something else is happening and causing Langley High School membership to stay about the same despite the model forecast. We are concerned that if this underestimation of student enrollment persists, it will eventually jeopardize program and resource planning. More immediately, inaccurate assumptions may be used as basis for the boundary adjustment under consideration with McLean High School. We recommend that you address our concern and redo the proposed membership forecast for Langley High School. Again, we think the current proposed 8% decline in year 5 of the forecast period is a significant underestimation, as were the last 10 forecasts. We think you should consider a flat or a slightly rising drift over the next 5 years.
Thank you very much. Jennifer Longmire Wood, followed by Meg Mall and Colby Neal. Ms. Longmire Wood. Ms. Mall.
Good evening. My name is Meg Mall. First and foremost, I'm a mother of 2 Crossfield Elementary students. I'm also the executive director of Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions, a nonprofit organization that unites people of faith to speak out for local action on climate change as a moral imperative. I'm also a member of the Joint Environmental Task Force. Last year, I testified at the CIP hearing in support of solar. The county has far surpassed its original commitment for 3 schools. The December award of the contract includes 113 county buildings, the majority of which are schools. This is the kind of bold action we need. Thank you. And FCPS continues to be a leader in energy efficiency. Well done. And yet we can't stop here. There's so much to be done, but this evening I want to focus on FCPS's carbon footprint of its 200+ buildings. As energy efficient as many of those schools are, the average energy usage intensity, or EUI, which is a measure of the building's energy per square foot, is not as low as it can and should be. What does this mean? This means that even though we will soon have solar on the schools, they will not produce enough energy to offset energy use. So we will continue to power the schools with dirty energy from the grid until we can close that gap. The solution is in our reach. The solution is not to install bigger arrays, but rather to reduce the EUI of our schools. The cheapest energy is the energy you don't use. To be net zero ready, it is reasonable to aim for an EUI in the range of 20 to 25, though there are schools that have achieved in the teens. Total site EUI for FCPS's 198 schools is 54.3. We need all new builds and all major renovations to incorporate design specifications that are net zero ready, aiming for that 20 to 25 EUI range. This is doable today. Wild Lake Middle School in Howard County achieved an EUI of 13. The team in Howard County found that every unit reduction in EUI equated to $76,000 savings in solar panel system costs. Maintenance costs of the net zero schools is about $10,000 versus the $50,000 to $60,000 for older schools with larger systems. Further, we need learning spaces or maker spaces that incorporate these sustainability initiatives. We know there's huge growth in fields related to the environment and clean energy. We need to prepare our youth for this workforce reality. Lastly, FCPS needs an overarching operations energy strategy with metrics and regular reporting on progress to guide the CIP. The county adopted and funded its operations energy strategy in 2018. It's time for FCPS to do the same. Thank you for the rich dialogue you've already had on this topic in your work sessions. We ask that you move forward by amending the CIP to include these suggested design specs and also commit to an energy strategy in 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. Colby Neal, followed by Joanne Sears and David Hardison. Colby Neal. Joanne Sears.
Ma'am, the timer's not working here.
I apologize. We're having a bit of a challenge with the timer, but they are keeping the timer at the clerk's desk, and you will hear the buzzer when 3 minutes is up. But we won't start it until you start.
I'm going to do my own clock here so I can see it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Sears, and my family and I live in the incredibly overcrowded McLean High School Pyramid. I have a 10th grader at McLean High School and an 8th grader at Longfellow. And we're tired. We're tired of our school being ignored. I want you all to put the number 2048 in your head and then subtract the year you were born. How old will you be on that date? Because that's the date when McLean High School is scheduled to actually have a good relook. I'll be 79, and my sophomore son at McLean will be 42 years old. That is unacceptable. This board sees overcrowding as a financial issue. Parents and administrators and students see it as a personal, professional, and safety issue. Until the board acknowledges the cost of overcrowding goes far beyond dollars and cents, you will never make the right decision. So let's look at some facts. McLean High School requires an addition to ensure an adequate amount of permanent, protected, quality learning space for its current and future students. Among the 25 high schools in Fairfax County Public Schools, McLean High School is currently third worst in square footage with 127 square foot per student. District-wide median space per high school student is 166 feet per square foot. In 2 years, with a projected 2,500 students, our high school in McLean will be #1 as the worst in square footage per student. What does this really mean? This means that our teachers and administrators and students really are at a safety risk. So think about fire drills. Think about actual fires. Think about, God forbid, an active shooter in our high school. Our kids will not be able to get to safety, and it is your responsibility that when my children go to school, they are safe. And now for the elephant in the room that has been really bothering me for a while. There is a member of the school board who called my town Lily White in a campaign ad. Now, why does this bother me? It bothers me because McLean High School is made up 40% of minorities. To call our school out in that way is wrong, offensive, and racist. And I certainly hope that our socioeconomic town of McLean is not being looked at unfairly or wrongly because of the families there. And I want you all to keep that in mind. We all pay our taxes, we invest in our kids, and I want to make sure this board knows that that language from members of this board is unacceptable and racist. Thank you.
David Hardison, followed by Keith Fox and Kate Coho.
All right. Good evening. My name is Dave Hardison. 2 of my kids graduated from McLean and a 3rd from Marshall. First, congratulations on your election or re-election. I think you probably win the prize for shortest honeymoon of any school board in history. I have 3 comments tonight on the draft CIP. First, I've heard some self-congratulatory comments that this CIP includes more data than its predecessors. As a self-professed data junkie, I appreciate that, but the CIP needs to be more than a fact book. It should be a plan that reflects a careful analysis and explanation of how the data, historical and projected, supports current projects and identifies future needs. I know Ms. McLaughlin in particular has focused on the need for more analysis in the CIP, so please make this a priority over the next 4 years. Second, the overcrowding at McLean. Mr. Plattenberg suggested during a recent work session that McLean families might be confused if the CIP provides for both a limited boundary change with Langley and a future addition to McLean. Really, nothing could be further from the truth. McLean families understand very well that not every problem is susceptible to a single solution or easy fix. It's disingenuous to suggest otherwise, and several of you pledged before the election to support an addition at McLean. But here are some things that do confuse or concern our community. It confuses us that the last school board did nothing, or that a new school board might let the overcrowding at McLean get worse. It confuses us that you currently plan to build an addition at Madison, but not McLean, when Madison is less overcrowded than McLean and apparently had room to accept over 100 pupil placements this year. McLean's so overcrowded that it accepted 4. It confuses us that you plan to add over 700 seats at West Potomac, but haven't budgeted a dime for new seats at McLean, even though Mount Vernon is very close to West Potomac and has extra capacity like Langley. And it concerns us that you might now overreact and send every last kid you can find at McLean to Langley, gutting our school's programs in the process so facilities can justify having added hundreds of seats to Langley during its recent renovation, despite a projected decline in enrollment there. We ask you to address these concerns and treat our pyramid equitably. Finally, I do want to express my appreciation to our new representative, Ms. Tholen, for getting up to speed so quickly and sharing her thoughtful suggestions with the community. She inherited the situation at McLean, but she's now the one getting the calls and emails. I ask that you listen to your new colleagues' ideas. That will make her job and yours much easier. Thanks.
Keith Fox, followed by Kate Coho. Mr. Fox? Ms. Coho?
Good evening. My name is Kate Coho, and my son is currently in 2nd grade at Shreveport Elementary School in the Marshall Pyramid. I'm here today to ask you guys to address the capacity issues at Shreveport Elementary. I know that Mr. Frisch has been advocating for us in some of your planning sessions, but I wanted you to hear firsthand from a parent. The published draft of the CIP listed that Shreveport was not up for a boundary study, even though we were told by FCPS staff last year that we would, in fact, be up for a boundary study this spring. Shreveport continues to be at 118% capacity, the second most overcrowded elementary school in the county, an issue that has been ongoing for many years. While some nearby schools are at 100%, there are many that are well below 95 and even some in the low 80s. How can resources be allocated equally if capacity levels are so disparate? Shreveport currently has 7 temporary classrooms. They are not modulars. These are old buildings that have no running water and no bathrooms that sit outside of the building itself, so the children have to go inside on a rainy day to use the bathroom. The school facilities were never designed to hold the number of students, teachers, and families that currently proudly call Shreveport home. The parking lot is too small, leaving teachers and families to park on the median and cross busy Shreve Road with no crosswalk in order to attend events. The playgrounds have far too many children during recess time, and kids have to eat lunch basically all day because the cafeteria is too small to hold the 780 students that are currently there. I'm here today to ask the school board what the plan is to alleviate the overcrowding at Shreveport today. The CIP notes many options should be considered, but this has been in the CIP for many years. We want to hear some concrete solutions now. Please add specific, measurable, achievable, and timely goals to this CIP to address the overcrowding at Shreveport. It's my belief that the board and FCPS staff need to be more aggressive in tackling some of these capacity issues countywide. Please do not continue to kick the can further and further down the road while Shreveport students and staff just deal with their current conditions. Thank you.
Kimberly Adams, followed by Jackie Shepard and Joseph Scara.
Good evening, Chairman Corbett Sanders, school board members, Dr. Brabrand. My name is Kimberly Adams, and I am speaking as president of the Fairfax Education Association. I am here to talk about spaces, the spaces where our students learn and our teachers teach. We have nearly 190,000 students, and we do not have enough space for them all. For years, we have cobbled together a Band-Aid patchwork of solutions that were never meant to be permanent. Learning cottages or modular units, which teachers generally refer to as the mods, or even just the trailers. These trailers, precisely because they were designed to be temporary, are causing permanent problems. Our members have reported safety concerns over the past few years, as these structures are less secure than our actual school buildings. Our students go to and from classes and to the bathroom in the rain, snow, and cold. Our custodial staff has additional work to make certain that not only are the parking lot and sidewalks clear, but the pathways between these outbuildings. Our members are serving as an unfortunate canary in the coal mine, as some music teachers are now reporting hearing loss in rooms that were never designed for this level of sound production. We're thankful that the impact on our students is likely less, since they spend less than one time a day in that single classroom, but we can only hope that there are no long-term effects on their still developing senses. We know that you have acknowledged the scope of this problem and have planned for some trailer removal over the next decade, but we can and must do better than short-term mitigation of harm. This is our reality, and it has been for more than a decade. Fairfax County is still growing, and our student population is not stagnant. We have an obligation to be realistic about the need to build new schools, expand the capacity of existing schools. This has to be our priority. We support you asking for additional improvement funds. Our children are worth it, and your employees are too. Thank you.
Jackie Shepard, followed by Joseph Scara and Diane Cooper-Gould.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Shepard, and I have 2 children at Kent Gardens Elementary, currently in grades 2 and 6. I'm coming to you this evening about the severe overcrowding at Kent Gardens and the apparent lack of notice or attention it has received. A quick glance at the CIP shows Kent Gardens at the top of the overcapacity schools, yet it is missing from any list of schools with plans for capacity or capital improvements. Kent Gardens now sits at a school population of 1,070. In the past 3 years alone, our 6th grade class has nearly doubled, from 100 to 180. Our 7 single-wide trailers housed behind the brick school building are the oldest in the Fairfax County system. We as parents have been told that single-wide trailers, quote, are no longer made, and thus they cannot be replaced. When 6th grade students came to speak to you in person 2 years ago about the security of those trailers, no trailer-specific security measures were made. The county continues to test and patch, Band-Aid and smooth things over until a new group of parents and students is left to deal with the issue. One would think that the addition of the quad brought in over the summer to alleviate our 6th grade class of 180 students would have satisfied the situation at least for a while. While it afforded us more room to address the 6th grade class, that quad now sits in front of the school, and let's forget the fact that it's not aesthetically pleasing. It's a security nightmare. And while the 6th grade has expanded to 7 classrooms, the 3rd and 5th grades did as well. Each kindergarten classroom now sits at 28 students, simply because we have no physical space to house a 5th kindergarten classroom. We now have 180 6th graders without easy access to the safety of a school building, let alone a bathroom. They are to use these 6 total stalls allocated to 515 plus students in grades 4, 5, and 6. They are supposed to use the bathroom 2 times a day in the span of 5 minutes when they switch from the back of the school trailers to the front of the school quad. Do the math on that one. Have I mentioned that one of those stalls in both the male and female bathrooms has been out of order since the beginning of the school year? Our administrators and teachers are now facilities managers. They deal with egress and ingress, bathroom breaks, bottlenecks, and the safety and security of moving 1,070 students in and out of a school building, which you estimate should accommodate 896 students. I'm not sure why this clearly burgeoning issue has gone unchecked for so long, but it's time to stop placating us and give our students a safe, secure, and adequate place of learning. It's sad to think that the CIP process most likely won't benefit my now 2nd grader, and that is a true shame. It's time to act now. I challenge you to deliver a plan for relief in this cycle, if not sooner, so that we can continue to foster the remarkable school community we have at Kent Gardens. Thank you.
Joseph Scara, followed by Diane Cooper-Gould and Julia Pfeiffer-Shepard. Julie.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Sarah. Also, my 2 children successfully attended Fairfax's elementary, middle, and high school. For the past 1.5 years, I've been a substitute high school teacher, and by next Monday have substituted in 20 schools. In the 2017-2018 school year, I was a high school teacher at Robinson Secondary, instructing 10th, 11th, and 12th grade criminal justice. That phenomenal experience was the most rewarding job I've ever had in my life, but the toughest too. I'd like to share some important information concerning the inappropriate use of cell phones and laptops by students in the classroom. I strongly recommend the school board members, while unannounced, visit several high school classrooms for the entire period. I believe you will observe a bedlam of inappropriate cell phone activity. The cross-section of the schools I've taught has offered me a unique opportunity to experience this dilemma firsthand, to include the year I was an instructor. I only intended to teach for a couple years to help out with the criminal justice program, but one of the main reasons I did not return as a teacher was due to the lack of solid and enforceable cell phone restriction policies. The September 2019 memo by Dr. Braband was a good start, but the last 2 sentences took the wind out of the sail. I included that memo as an attachment with my email speech to the board. In the 3 minutes allowed, I can only minimally inform the board, which I suspect the board already is aware of. I also included with my email speech an additional article along with my separate recommendations I feel may be helpful. Due to this tragedy, I estimate at least 60% of the high school teachers are demoralized, stressed, numb, or sadly have left the teaching profession. I suspect because the school system may not know how or have had the time to help their teachers find solutions to this problem. Furthermore, I feel this situation may get worse and out of control. Some feel we are already in a crisis mode now. There is an injustice being perpetrated not only to the teachers and parents, but to the students who do not misbehave, but are affected by those who do. And of course, they also are affected. Parents, I believe, already know how their kids are addicted to cell phones at home. Equally, I know the parents would be stunned and embarrassed to know how their children misbehave in the classroom. Their children are terribly distracted and simply straying away from the learning process. It is very sad to see. It has been estimated that students who are distracted in the classroom by cell phone usage may be handicapped in college due to a lack of concentration by approximately 40%. There are immediate solutions readily available. Those steps can be implemented today, definitely by the upcoming school year. The solutions are reasonable and can be a win-win for everyone. I would be glad to advise the board further if interested sometime in the future. Teachers are deluged by an enormous mountain of administrative tasks. Why in the world would we want to increase the responsibilities by not taking care of this problem? And yet the teachers are terribly burdened by all of this. Finally, as a retired police officer, I thought I'd seen it all. But this problem in the school is just appalling, and I feel it is a crisis. But I believe it is correctable right now. Thank you.
Diane Cooper-Gould, followed by Julie Pfeiffer-Shepherd and Brian Scrafford.
Hello, I would like to start by thanking this new board for caring deeply about students with disabilities. It's evident in your meetings and work sessions. I'm Diane Cooper-Gould, co-founder and past president of Fairfax County SEPTA. I am dyslexic, and I am the mother of 2 twice exceptional FCPS students. But tonight, I speak as an individual and on behalf of the many parents of 2E neurodiverse students in FCPS who have reached out to me in desperation. How do we convey the desperate need while protecting the privacy of our children? I could spend hours discussing how our current AAP model excludes children with disabilities. My dyslexic daughter faced the same hurdles in FCPS now that I faced in the early 1980s. But after hours of advocacy, thousands in private tutoring, our journeys have been ultimately successful. My autistic son's journey, on the other hand, has been horrific and painful. Daily, I hear reports of other neurodiverse, highly intelligent students in FCPS who are similarly failed by a lack of appropriate programming for those who require high support and high academics. Traditionally, the belief was that students who require high support were lacking in academic and life potential. The focus of these programs was to contain troubling behaviors at the expense of academic instruction. This is the same model FCPS self-contained classrooms follow today. That thinking is wrong. I want to thank Karen Corbett Sanders and support her request that the CIP explore the possibility of a self-contained program and facility for twice exceptional students who require strong academics as well as high social, emotional, and environmental support. My son, who began reading fluently by 3 and began teaching his preschool classmates to read at 4, has had a harrowing educational experience in FCPS. Without exception, every teacher and specialist who has worked with my son has noticed his advanced academic ability, his lust for life, and his excitement for learning. And without exception, they have acknowledged that FCPS is not set up to serve his needs in an appropriate setting. This gap in services has led my family into debt, my son into depression, self-harm, OCD, and anxiety. It has led him to being homebound twice, as well as currently, and in private placement paid for by FCPS for nearly 6 years. And he is not alone. I have spent hours volunteering my time to help other desperate families in our situation facing anxiety, depression, self-harm, career loss, bankruptcy, hospitalizations, school refusal, and students being pulled out or dropping out of school. And I am not exaggerating. If FCPS wants to be the leader it claims it wants to be, we must stop asking parents to violate their children's privacy to publicly and collectively tell our tales of woe. It must provide programming where there are gaps, and currently one of the biggest gaps is for neurodiverse students with high academic and high support needs. Thank you.
Julie Pfeiffer-Shepherd, followed by Brian Scrafford and Christina Hunt.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm Julie Shepherd, and I'm here on behalf of Laura Baker, who had a family emergency. We are both parents of 2 twice exceptional students in FCPS and members of the Special Education PTA. Laura is the SEPTA 2E committee chair, where she advocated for and helped write the 2E handbook. We are here to ask for facility space for a 2E program for students on the autism spectrum. Even though we are strong advocates for inclusion, FCPS has close to 4,000 students with IEPs for autism, and we need to address the gaps in our continuum of services for this population. FCPS has a massive blind spot when it comes to the vast range and unique educational needs of bright autistic students. Montgomery County has had specialized 2E programs for decades, as well as private options like Ivy Mount. In the old days, our students with high support needs often had academic challenges. Our population has shifted dramatically due to a fourfold increase in students with autism. In 2020, many students have support needs that do not line up with their academic ability. In autistic people, there is no correlation between academic aptitude and the ability to deal with sensory issues in their school setting. To quote Temple Grandin, they are different, not less. Some autistic students can access advanced academics in inclusive settings, but most cannot. Our inclusion data reflects this. Every week we hear heartbreaking stories about students who find inclusive settings too chaotic and overwhelming and the social isolation unbearable. Families are often in crisis, dealing with school refusal, bullying, or academic failure. Rather than fight endless battles for AAP inclusion, so many parents, like Laura Baker included, place their students on homebound or take on the burden to homeschool their autistic students. Currently in FCPS, autistic 2E students who require a more supportive setting are shoehorned into our modified emotional disability programs. These are not designed for autism, nor do they guarantee access to advanced academics. We are here to ask that you plan for the disabled students we have now, not the students we had in 1990 or 2000. We have so much catching up to do, but this is an urgent need. While our autism population has increased exponentially, their options have not. We hope that the audit of special education will highlight the gaps in service so that we can better prepare all students with disabilities for life, for college, and for productive careers, as well as valuable members of our community. Autistic students need sensory-friendly spaces, the flexibility to self-regulate, predictable schedules, social support, language support, trained teachers, and strengths-based programming. Thank you very much.
Brian Scrafford, followed by Christina Hunt and Zia Tompkins. Mr. Scrafford? Christina Hunt?
My name is Christina Hunt, and I am a parent of 3 current FCPS students and a rising kindergartner. My 11th grader struggles with anxiety and a social communication disorder. When we moved to FCPS, my son began his 5th grade year at Lane. The move was hard on him, but he was attending school consistently, although he did not feel challenged academically. He tested into AAP and moved to Springfield Estates mid-year. The demands of moving to a new classroom where the routine was familiar to everyone except him proved to be too much, and thus began our struggle with anxiety-based school refusal. My son needs access to advanced education in addition to a high level of social-emotional support. FCPS does not have a program that meets his needs. He was placed at Burke for 6th grade. There were students with extreme behaviors that served to heighten his anxiety, and his educational needs were not met. My son did well in the Iowa and the math test so well in the 6th grade. We were told he would have access to algebra in 7th, but he did not. My son began transitioning to the CSS at Twain to be able to take a team-taught algebra in 8th grade. We slowly built up his schedule at Twain, and by 4th quarter, he was taking all classes at Twain. When planning the transition from Burke to Twain, my son's biggest worry was PE. We had asked multiple times for support for PE, but we were told if he wanted to go to Twain, he needed to participate in the regular PE class. On his first day in PE, he was overwhelmed by the number of kids, the noise of the gymnasium, and not knowing what to do. He ended up breaking down and collapsed in a heap on the floor. He refused to go back to school for the rest of the year and spiraled into a massive depression. Accommodations were offered after the incident, but why do we have to wait for failure? Why aren't we proactively offering the needed support? The IEP team will often use this incident to illustrate his difficulties with transitioning, but he did not have the support needed to transition successfully. When he went to Burke, we were told the move was temporary. The plan was to address the social-emotional needs, and then he would be able to go back to his base school and catch up academically. But after moving to one of the most restrictive placements the county offers, we have found it is an uphill battle to get back to an LRE, especially with the needed supports. On the 2E section of the FCPS website, it reads, the advanced academic programs staff work closely with the special education staff to ensure that 2E students are supported by the very best research-based practices and interventions. As a result, 2E learners are finding success at all levels of advanced academic programs. This has not been our experience. It continues, FCPS wants to make sure that every child who has the capacity to succeed in advanced academic programs is able to access the programs, accommodations, and support necessary to realize his or her potential. Our son has not accessed advanced academics precisely because he has not had the necessary support. Students with invisible disabilities are often told to push through or even blamed for their disabilities. My son has not been given the support to have access to the programming for which he otherwise qualifies. How is the system equitable if my son does not have real access? When I hear Dr. Brabrand state by name and by need, it hurts because our son's needs are not being met. There needs to be an appropriate placement for kids who need both social and emotional support and academic challenge. Thank you.
Zia Tompkins, followed by Daniela Berger-Huza. Mr. Tompkins? Ms. Berger-Huza?
Hi, good evening. My name is Daniela Berger-Huza, and I live in Oakton near the Blake Lane Park area. So I'm here tonight to address an issue that has been very important to me and my neighbors for the last 2 years. So the numbers in the CIP draft fiscal years 2021 to 2025 show that the population of every elementary school in the Oakton Pyramid is declining and will continue to decline so that by 2025, every school in the area but one will be under 100% capacity. Only Waples Mills will be over at 104%, a number that should be easily brought down with program changes or by sending some children who would have gone to Waples Mills to nearby high schools that have a capacity surplus. The Falls Church High School Pyramid has 3 schools over 100% capacity right now, and none of them will be under capacity by 2025. A 4th school will be at 108% capacity. If the goal is to get children out of trailers, that is going to happen in the Oakton-Fairfax area without a new school. Why is Fairfax County Public Schools still so determined to build a Fairfax-Oakton Elementary School that won't be needed by the time it would be built, instead of out in Falls Church, where there's no new school planned and it's badly needed? That's not a rhetorical question. I'd like an answer, because I'll tell you what I think and what my husband thinks and what many of our neighbors in the Blake Lane Park neighborhood in Oakton think. We think a new Oakton-Fairfax area school was probably a good idea years ago. Now it's not. I think the plans for that proposed school have been pushed along without anybody taking a second look at them and asking whether a new school is still needed out there. Instead, my neighbors and I had to do that when we were ambushed with plans to take away our neighborhood park back in 2018. We need our park. Some of the students here and other people have addressed the climate change issues, so a park is a very good thing to keep. Your own numbers say we don't need another school, not anywhere near Oakton. Your numbers do show a need for a new school out in Falls Church. Build it there instead. And I would like to thank Carl Frisch, our new Providence District school representative, for being in our corner on this issue so far. Thank you.
So we have 5 citizens who have indicated they would like to speak tonight. Let's start with Marco Brown, followed by Lori O'Neill and Rachel Albert.
Hi, my name is Marco Brown. I'm here in support of building the Blake Lane School. My children have lived across the street, and where they have now gone to middle school, so this won't affect them. But I think it's a great idea to build that school, primarily because there's a ton of young kids in that area that can walk to school if that school is built. And I'm an environmentalist, and I believe it's a great idea for us to not take down trees and get rid of parks, but that school would actually be fairly central, would result in less busing than if you built the school at some farther location where kids would have to get bused farther to go to school. So building that school, I think, is a great idea, and there are several people in the neighborhood that do believe that it would be a good idea. In addition, the hope is that if you guys built the school, you would improve the traffic there, because there's some really bad intersections in that neighborhood that could use, excuse me, can you hear me? Okay, sorry. There's some really bad intersections in that area that could use the DOT's hand in improving them once the school is built, which I hear is a possibility. Okay, thank you.
Lori O'Neill, followed by Rachel Albert.
Good evening. My name is Lori O'Neill, and I'm the parent of two twice exceptional students in Fairfax County. I'm here tonight in support of expanded programming and facility for twice exceptional autistic students, similar to that which is available for students in Montgomery County and in other locations throughout the country. 6 years ago, when my bright, articulate, autistic daughter entered first grade in Fairfax County Public Schools, I could not have imagined that 5 years later, I would be homeschooling her due to lack of appropriate educational placement opportunities and services for twice exceptional autistic students. Despite beginning advanced mathematics in 3rd grade and full-time level 4 advanced academics in 4th grade, she has yet to be supported adequately and in a way that allows her to fully access the level of academics for which she is capable. Her therapists, counselors, teachers, and tutors have consistently agreed that my daughter needs small class sizes in order to manage her sensory challenges, obtain appropriate support for her learning differences, and nurture and expand her exceptional abilities. However, such a setting does not exist in Fairfax County Public Schools, or at least is not accessible to all families, irrespective of pyramid or region. When moving to this area in 2014, I visited an elementary school that offered team-taught classes to its students. Unable to find housing in that boundary, I naively believed that my daughter would, quote, get what she needed in any FCPS school, as advised by the principal where she enrolled. I'm here to testify that FCPS is going to face a flood of twice exceptional autistic students in the coming years, and that a large majority of the current 4,000 plus autistic students that we already have are not accessing a free and appropriate public education due to lack of programming and space that meet their educational needs. Please study the feasibility of expanded programming and facilities for bright autistic students. Thank you.
Rachel Albert, followed by Tom Van Meter.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Albert, and I am here as the parent of a twice exceptional 6th grader who currently attends Wakefield Forest Elementary. My son is diagnosed with high-functioning autism and has exceptional academic abilities. He has been supported in Level 4 AAP with team-taught classes, the opportunity to access advanced academics in the large class setting, and then the opportunity to complete his work in a much smaller setting with special ed support. We have been lucky. A few weeks ago, I attended the Rising 7th grade parent orientation at Frost Middle School, and also the special ed breakout session that same evening. At that session, parents asked questions about how 2E students got their needs met at Frost. The answer was very clear and totally unacceptable. Parents and students have to choose. Students can either get special ed support or advanced academics. The school offers no combination. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of 2E kids, smart, capable leaders of tomorrow, our next inventors, developers, and creative thinkers. But they can only thrive in an educational setting that meets their sensory and social emotional needs. I'm here today to ask you to support reinstating inclusion specialists to FCPS central offices, which have been gone for the past 20 years. This would be a first step to meeting the needs of this underserved demographic of 2E students. The next step, after supporting all schools with inclusion specialists, is planning in the CIP for sensory-friendly schools that offer advanced academics for our 2E kids with social emotional support. Thank you.
Tom Van Meter, followed by Bob Nelson.
Hi, my name is Tom Van Meter. Thank you for the opportunity for some extemporaneous remarks. I have 3 children in Fairfax County Schools, 2 at McLean, senior and a freshman, and 1 at Longfellow Middle School. Got some comments regarding redistricting. Don't know what's going to happen with redistricting, but I think there should be some principles laid out that if you do some redistricting, there's some things that need to be forefront. One of those things is once a kid starts high school, they should be allowed the opportunity to stay at that high school. Okay? I don't know how that works, but that should be an opportunity. The second thing is don't split families. Don't have one kid going to one high school and another kid going to another high school, because that's just not going to be a very viable thing. There may be other principles that should be considered, but no matter what the algorithms are that you use to analyze if you get to redistricting, keep some base principles like those in mind. So that's the first set of comments. Second is I attended the parents' meetings at McLean High School for redistricting, and the walls of the entire cafeteria, almost the entire way around, were filled with the 2-foot by 3-foot Post-it notes with lots of suggestions. Lots of parent input, lots of good ideas. One consistent comment was that there wasn't enough data to make cogent comments that could be effective. From what I saw, it looked, I don't want to use the word rushed, but rushed to get answers and suggestions. I think it's meritorious of at least another year's worth of analysis. And I think the parents in the community would be willing to help do that. There was a lot of good comments. And I've seen before, I lived in a townhouse community, I didn't want to participate in the how many parking spots does each townhouse get? Because I just knew the answer was going to be 1, it was going to screw everybody. But in fact, some people stepped forward, found some novel solutions, and made it so everybody got a fair number, in this case 2, dedicated parking spots. So there are ways to do it, but I just think the data is not clean yet. And if you can get some clean data and have a collaborative effort with the parents community, I'll bet you can come up with some really good ideas that might make things less painful. Okay. Thanks. Have a good night.
Bob Nelson.
Set my little timer here. There you go. Hi, I'm Bob Nelson. I didn't plan to come tonight. I had some friends who said I'm coming and want to hear. I wanted to hear what they were up to because they were from McLean. I'd never been involved in any of this kind of stuff before. But a few things weren't said tonight that I think deserve to be said. Number one, I have a background in politics. I've worked for a congressman. I've worked for 2 U.S. senators. And I know that the demands on the time of people who are willing to campaign and run and win and then do all the work with almost no support. I know there's 8 people who are brand new to this organization from what I've read. I just want to thank you for going to the trouble of something you must obviously care about to do something that you don't get a lot of thanks for. I understand there are 4 of you who have done this before, and you have stayed and you're providing institutional memory for the organization. I want to say thanks to you guys. Happily, I'm the last speaker, I think, so I can say this without being contradicted afterward. I also noticed that a lot of people are passionate about their issues, and that's something that is good, but it's hard to satisfy all of them, and that's your job, and that's what do we pay you? I don't know. So anyway, I was just coming to say thank you. A couple of things you may not have known. I came because some McLean parents told me to. I don't think any of that was coordinated. I think they mostly all came independently of each other, and that's because they're very passionate about their kids, their school, and their community. It reminds me when I first moved to Fairfax County, there's the old saying that you don't want to get between a hippo and the water in the wild. I learned when I moved here, you don't want to get between a McLean parent and their children's education. And I think you all saw that tonight. They care, and it's about their children. I'm sure you have seen that about your children too. So I think the thing that wasn't also wasn't said is that it's not obvious that McLean parents want all Fairfax County kids to do well. We want all the schools to be good. We want ours to be better, and I understand that. There are data that said that that can be the case, but it may not be obvious to the folks beyond Elaine Tholen who are representing their schools that we truly do want those schools to be successful, and Fairfax County has a great history of building great schools with nationwide charters. So again, I just want to say thank you. And the last part of it is, just having worked in politics, it is possible to harness the passion of families to the common support. Thinking of McLean only, these are parents that want to see our county succeed. I don't know how to do that. I don't have the background that y'all have, but I do know that it can be harnessed for the good of the county, and that would be my hope for y'all is that you're able to do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Now I'm going to go back to those who were supposed to speak earlier but were not present. I understand Mr. Hassan is not here. Nurulhuda Al-Koubi, Deepa Rao, Moath Al-Shamrani, Jennifer Longmire-Wood, Colby Neal. Ms. Longmire-Wood? Excellent.
There was traffic on 66 tonight. Good evening. My name is Jennifer Longmire-Wood. Sadly, I need my glasses too. Thank you for the opportunity to share my comments about the overcrowding issue at McLean and my concern that the proposed capital improvement plan does not include McLean. My husband and I have 2 children, aged 14 and 11. In 2008, we bought our first house in McLean, just down the street from the high school on Seacliff Road. Although the high school was renovated in 2004, trailers at the high school were already a well-established figure in 2008. The overcrowding, which is currently at 18% above capacity and projected to be at 27% over capacity by 2022, did not happen overnight. Previous boards failed to address this issue, which has been festering for the last decade or more. You have heard from many students and parents directly affected by the overcrowding, and I hope by now you are well aware of the basic facts. By 2023, McLean High School will be the most overcrowded high school in Fairfax County. McLean High School is currently the 3rd worst for square footage. Oakton and Centerville are 1st and 2nd, and both of these schools are scheduled to undergo renovation in the next 5 years. The boundary adjustments currently being discussed will not alleviate the fundamental issue that McLean continues to add new housing and as families turn over there, which will only add more children into our school system. McLean High School is an excellent high school. It is the 3rd ranked high school in the Commonwealth and 127th in the nation. For the record, I graduated from the 427th high school in the nation. McLean-Tysons is an economic engine for the whole of Fairfax County. This is driven by many factors, and certainly the quality of education provided in McLean is one of them. Failing to address this will directly impact McLean and the county. If we can quickly compare the 2 high schools serving McLean, McLean High School opened in 1955, and at that time was the newest high school in the county. A renovation in 2004 was merely cosmetic and did not add any capacity. Langley was established in 1965 and recently underwent a $59 million renovation to provide its students a 21st century learning environment. Langley is projected to hover around 80% capacity by 2023. While mid-century modern is a style that works for homes, it's not one that works for high schools. What does this mean for my family? My 14-year-old should be a freshman at McLean High School. That's why we moved here. But due to overcrowding, our family decided a better learning environment for him was a private school. Our 11-year-old will start at McLean in 2022, when McLean is projected to be at its most overcrowded. Needless to say, how you address this issue would directly impact my family. You have a decision to make. Some of you are new to the board, some of you have been long-serving members. But this community is looking to you to address our overcrowding issue head-on, not to punt the problem or hope that a boundary adjustment will solve everything. I leave you with this. After we moved to McLean, we joined the McLean Swim and Tennis Association.
Thank you, Ms. Longmire-Wood.
Thank you.
Colby Neal, Keith Fox, Brian Scrafford, Zia Tompkins. Thank you all for attending this evening's public hearing and for sharing your comments and concerns. The board will take action on the CIP at the February 6th regular meeting. Again, thank you for your comments and have a good evening. We will take a 5-minute break before convening the budget public hearing.